Where are things with you possibly adding another game for this coming week to the schedule?
Yeah, we're working on it, Chris. Nothing definite. Um, we're getting close to the conference tournament. This is the next week's the last week. So, but the choice is stay in rhythm. These Sunday, we've been bitten a lot by these the Sunday games. So the choice is, do you want to go Sunday to Sunday, or would you rather plug in a game like Western Kentucky last night? We knew how good they were, but we thought we were pretty good too. I thought that, talking to Rick, I knew that would be good for his team, and it was good for our team. Obviously, when you win the game, you always feel better. But I just think that was timing wise, and the opponent, the quality of the opponent. I mean, them beating Alabama, beating Memphis, they're up 10 on West Virginia with 4 minutes to go, all that stuff. You could, playing them, we could tell how good they were. But it's also a good measuring stick for us. And so this week, I don't think we would, nobody's interested in playing that kind of game right now. Everybody's gearing up for a conference tournament. But we have a chance to find somebody, and if it's somebody that, the date probably is more important than the opponent at this point.
Do you have a timetable of when you hope to have that finalized?
Here pretty soon, I would think today, because the game. A lot of teams are actually starting their conference tournaments next weekend. So we'll just have to find somebody that fits. But I'd like today's Friday. We'd like to have the rope around somebody and start negotiating and get a date and get them coming. Ideally somebody can bus here and not have to get on a plane.
Thank you.
We'll go to Joseph Duarte with the Chronicle. Joseph, go ahead, sir.
Coach, staying on scheduling, the conference announced a little while ago about your game against Memphis being moved to Houston based on the agreed upon, I guess, parameters or protocols, whatever you want to call it. I'm just wondering, taking that away from a road game to a home game with the conference tournament immediately after that, I'm sure there's some benefits to that from your perspective. But what do you think just about, kind of flipping the schedule like that?
Well, they were supposed to come here first. And so it's just following protocol. Protocol said that if you opt out of a game based on COVID, and the game was at the other team's home gym, that during the reschedule, you go back to that gym. March 7th, we were supposed to be at Memphis. Had Memphis already been here, that's what we would do. But I also think this time of year, because we've got some teams on the bubble, like Wichita State, I think Wichita State, without Tariq Gilbert, I see all these backcourts around the country. If you only see one league all the time, you start thinking that league's probably not as good as it really is, or you think it's better than it actually is, because that's all you see. If you watch NTN and Gilbert and Dennis, you realize they're as good as anybody's backcourt. That's a really, really good backcourt. As good as backcourt we played this year. Wichita State's an NCAA tournament team. I know Memphis is. Now, they may not have the resume right now, but they've also been on pause 25 days. I mean, COVID has rocked them, and they were one of the lucky teams. They had gone for a long, long time. One of my former strength coaches is the strength coach at Memphis, and we still correspond. If you haven't been through the COVID thing, it's not, well, we've just been fortunate. No, we're getting ready to get hit. And that's what happened to them. But Penny's done a nice job developing that team. They got a good team. They're well put together. Nolly obviously was I think he was the ACC Player of the Year last year at Virginia Tech. And he's really playing well for him now. Lomax, I've always been a Lomax fan. And then all those guys, Sisse, Quinones, Ellis, they're all either McDonald's All-Americans or five-star guys. But Penny does not get enough credit for being able to manage those kids and get them to play hard. Tremendous defensive team, and their offense is starting to come since they changed their offense. So to me, they're an NCAA tournament worthy team. That's why, because of this COVID years, I would just take the teams that have a chance to make the tournament that's in the bubble, throw them up and let them play each other, because then they become higher rated wins, which means they're also higher rated losses. But everybody should be fighting for their league. Wichita State, SMU, and Memphis are the three teams that could easily play their way into this, either at the conference tournament or maybe this week. I see all these teams that are always spouting, we're going to get 8, 9 teams in. I see those 7, 8, 9 teams, those teams aren't as good as teams in this league. I know that.
We'll go to Andy Yanez with the Cougar. Andy, go ahead, sir.
Good morning, Kelvin. Can you talk about the growth that you've seen from Reggie Chaney, especially the last few weeks? You talked about how big of a role he played last night in defending Charles. Justin kind of talked about like the growth from when he first practiced, where he didn't know a lot, and the biggest asset he had was listening to the coaching staff.
Yeah, well, that's no different than anybody. None of them know anything when they get here. They think they do. I've had some freshmen that thought they knew everything. So one day I walked up to one freshman and said, "What's my middle name?" Stumped him. I said, "Well, that's amazing. Here I was thinking you knew everything and you don't know my middle name. Good. Now we can start." Reggie starts with being a great kid. I'm very blessed with this team. I have a team full of great kids, great young men. Wouldn't trade them for anybody's team in America. I love this team. I love the kind of kids they are. But Reggie's a willing learner, a little bit undersized, but very strong. We've guarded everybody here from the Wesson kid at Ohio State to the Bassey kid last night. When we play teams that are dependent on an inside presence, we'll go after them. And Reggie, I moved Reggie to the starting lineup to get a little more energy to start the game, but also to start the second half. And those are two critical pieces of the game that energy dictates a lot of the start. You're not going to start the game making 10 shots in a row, but you want to start the game with energy at all 5 spots, especially in the second half. And Reggie's a guy that I can depend on to do that. And I think taking Bryson out of the starting lineup, when we're with under a minute to go, we're up on Kentucky 1 against PJ Washington, Tyler Hero, and those guys. Well, our best post player in that game was Bryson Gresham. So we know how capable he is. But he's been up and down with his effort this year. And sometimes to get their attention, you need to snatch him out of the lineup and give them a reminder. And Reggie's come in and really stabilized us to start the game. First play of the game last night, we went to him and drew a foul on Bassett. And then he comes down and, because of our physicality and the rules in our defense, Reggie's learned that. Justin made a great point. When he came in, he just had to learn like they all do. But he's a willing learner and he's a great kid. Being real proud of his growth.
We'll go back to Joseph Duarte. Joseph, go ahead.
Kelvin, to piggyback off of the front court, you mentioned the numbers and maybe in the pads, it's been very deep in the backcourt. But then you look at what you have now. Does that change things as you go into a tournament, or how does that affect maybe how a team or your team does things when you have that reversal and you have those kind of numbers now?
Well, it's not really a reversal. When we played Michigan the other year, we had Breon Brady, Nurzana, Devin Davis, and Fabian White. So that's 5. We had 5 then. We had 5 the next year. We had 5 the next year, and we have 5 this year. So it may be something you're just now noticing, but it has not changed for us. The strength of our team has been in the backcourt, but our depth in the front court has always been there.
Correction. I guess that was the word. Strength. The strength there. When you have that strength, and then you add Fabian. Is there one or the other? I mean, it all goes together. But is there one or the other that come tournament time or come late season, you sort of rely on a little bit more? You have that ability to, when it comes to matchups or whoever you play, that it can come into factor a little bit more.
Well, one of the things that I was always intrigued with when I was in the NBA was the trades around the All-Star break. There was a lot of trepidation that week before the All-Star break when a guy would be pulled out of practice or guy got a call from his agent about an impending deal, or you may be in this, you hold him out of practice one day, whatever. Getting Fabian back has kind of reminded me of that. It's making a trade for a key guy at the All-Star break that maybe can bolster you as on the run toward the playoffs. Not many teams can add, this is the third straight year we've lost 4 starters. Think about it. Third consecutive year that we've lost 4 starters. Fabian, Nate, Caleb, Chris. Now, we're almost 90% through the season and we're getting one of them back. And he's been working out with us for about a month. Now he just doesn't have enough game experience. But even last night he played 12 minutes. And when he was in the game, we tried to play through him as much as possible just so he can get his feel back. But Precious Achiuwa from Memphis was a first-round draft choice. I think I can't remember what pick he was, 17, 18, something like that. Well, the last time we saw him, Fabian White had 18 points and 14 rebounds in that game, which now we're adding that guy to Justin Gorham, who's one of the top 3 offensive rebounders in America. Can only make it better. I still think the strength of our team is, especially with Tremont coming along, people will tend to look at our backcourts, our strength, because they score the most points. But I think our identity from our team comes from our front court.
All right, we'll go to Mark Herman, Fox 26. Mark, go ahead, please.
Kelvin, I know I haven't had a whole lot of success over the years asking you these kinds of questions, but I'm going to do it anyway. So you moved up overnight, number 4 in the country in the net rankings. What does that mean you'd be ranked that high? I know you've been ranked high all year in the rankings in the net. What do you think about that now at this stage of the game?
I didn't even know how to respond to that. We got practice today and we got USF Sunday, and if you lose, you'll be down to 8. Then what you going to say? I read today where you're 8th in the net. What's your reaction to that? Same as being 4. When the season's over is all that matters. I think this is our 4th straight year being ranked here. So, and I'm sure we've been high in the net every year. So we're 4th in the net. Does that give me a ribbon at the county fair, maybe a jar of jam or some pickles, or go help cut the wool off the sheep? I mean, what are you looking for here, Berman? My God.
Hey, I just try to ask a couple questions to see if I can have some success. That's all.
Well, you're 0 for 1 today. Let's you want to go on another one out there, see if it bites or see if it hits, or how you want to operate on that one.
No, I got a good answer out of you, even though you didn't like the question.
Well, I didn't dislike the question. I just don't know how to answer it.
Well, you're ranked with the best teams in the country, number 4 in the nation. A whole lot of folks would like to be where you're at right now.
Well,
that might be one of them.
No, you know who that is? That's a kid that has spina bifida that I became friends with when I was coaching in Montana. And I talked to him probably 3 times a month. His name is Nick Billings from Montana. And he is he's a huge inspiration to me, always has been. Can't wait to call him back to see how he's doing. But as far as what was our net last year? Do you remember?
I don't have that kind of memory. No. I don't
But
know what
Chris
your highest was.
what was our net? What do you think our net was this time last year, Chris or Joseph? I bet Joseph knows. What was our?
Yeah, last year
What about 2 years ago? What was our net?
the highest was 3 about 2 years ago. So 3 at the highest, I think.
So we're 3 2 years ago, and what did you say it was today, Mark?
4.
That's good. How about that?
We'll go to Chris Gardner.
It's better than being 34.
Chris, go ahead with your question, please.
Coach, obviously this year is COVID impacted, but for future scheduling, would you like to have like a non-conference game around February, or, you know, just kind of break up the conference routine?
I don't know, Chris. Good question. Just depends on when your bye week comes, and you know, if you're sometimes, you know, the travel, kids getting beat up, hurt, especially with this net ranking now. You know, the analytics and ratings of what the tournament committee looks for. You know, you'd have to really determine, is it even worth it? You know, the fact that we chose to play Western Kentucky, a team that, you know, obviously has a great reputation, excellent coach, good program, good history, great wins this year. And not a lot of people would do that because we didn't have to. Sometimes you need to challenge your team, you know, and because of COVID, I didn't want to go from thinking a game a week, and the game's on Sunday, which makes it even more challenging. Because what day do you give them off? You know, ideally you play on Saturday, give them off Sunday, and start your week again on Monday, and you know, rinse and repeat. But you know, play Sunday. We don't have a game scheduled till Sunday. We've had 7 games either postponed or canceled. You know, you got some house money that you're just carrying around. You might as well spend it. And, you know, Mark Pope at BYU is a good friend of mine. We talked to him about coming. Brian Dutcher at San Diego State. You know, teams that were willing to come. You know, people that have no clue what they're talking about just start drawing names out of hats out like they're going to come. You know, they'll come about as much as I'll go to their place this time of year. But we were fortunate, and I really appreciate Rick doing it. But you know, if it's a game that makes sense, you know, from a national perspective, you know, we're on CBS every year, we're on ESPN multiple times every year. So as far as exposure, we get enough exposure, and I think every coach's number one goal with their team, competition-wise, is to win your league. You know, or at least be in a position to win your league. You're not always going to win it, but you want to at least have a chance to. And that takes precedence to me.
Got time for a couple more questions, guys. We'll go to Mark, please. Mark, go ahead.
Kelvin, getting back to that phone call that you're going to make in a little bit, how long have you maintained that relationship with that person that called you that has spina bifida?
Since 1983.
Is that right? How did y'all meet?
My assistant coach at Montana Tech, I had to share an assistant with the football team. He coached defensive backs during football season, would come help me during basketball season. He was one of the greatest human beings I've ever been around in my life. And he had a relationship with this kid, and you know, he travels. He has a specially made van. You know, he's been confined to a wheelchair his whole life, and you know, he has to go to a doctor in the Midwest somewhere. I think Kansas City, somewhere in the Midwest. But you know, he's just a special guy.
I've got time for one more question, guys. We'll go back to Joseph Duarte. Joseph, go ahead.
Kelvin, I wanted to ask you about Miss Karen, in all your years of coaching, is this the first time or the longest she's ever been away from the games and not been able to be back, behind the bench? Or, what's that been like, not to have, your granddaughter not running around and cheerleader out there?
It's been different, Joseph. She's always been such she's always been my rock. She knows the ins and outs of what we do better than anybody. I mean, if there's one coach's wife, I think could write a book about being a coach's wife and all the experiences you have, it would be her. But we both got our second COVID shot recently. And I think we have a 12-day period or 14-day period after that. But she's very disciplined, very set in her ways. She doesn't leave that house much. We're fortunate that, God, we're so blessed. I was talking to Rick Barnes the other day about some stuff, and he hasn't seen his grandchildren since this COVID thing hit last March because infection and spread and the disease. And here we are. I see my grandkids almost every day. It's such a blessing. We're so lucky. But she has not been to a game this year. She hasn't traveled, and this is the first time in 32 years that we've been together doing this that she hasn't. And it's empty for me, and I know it is for her. But she's still connected. We don't do film at our house anymore with the kids. The night before the game, we do it here. But she still bakes the cookies, and I leave practice and I drive all the way across town to get them, and I drive all the way back. And I try not to be late. And I've had some scares because the traffic on the 610. I haven't been easy, but we're getting through it, soldiering through it. Lucky we get to play. Fortunate we even get to play this game, period. And then the fact that we've been able to navigate through this pandemic. My hat's off to all the administrators, health officials, coaches, trainers, staff, managers, interns, whoever. Everybody has done a tremendous job all across America because we've all faced the same thing. Nobody's unique, nobody's special. But it's affected us all. This year, we were planning Senior Day the other year. How special Senior Days. I've seen 31 Senior Days. And I probably cried at 95% of them. And everybody thinks their Senior Day is the most special one. Well, they're all special in their own way. But Dejan and Justin and Bryson, they don't get to see their parents come down and get the adulation from the crowd, and for people to stand up and clap and say a profound thank you to those kids for their service and their contribution to their happiness and the gratification they get from supporting Cougar back. We have great fans here. Since we moved into the Fertitta Center and sold out, I think our record, I don't even know what our record is. I know it's pretty good. So, it's just been a challenging year for everybody.
So will you do Senior Day now, March 7th? Is that sort of the plan?
Yeah, we'll do. And we had to figure out, it was on hold for a long time because we didn't know how we were going to navigate the last week of the schedule. So we have to let our parents know. Like Justin's mother's got to fly from Baltimore, and money doesn't grow on trees. She's got to shop around for the cheapest ticket she can get. Bryson and Dejan's mother and father will drive from New Orleans, but Justin's will have to fly.